The twin suns hung low in the sky, painting the alien marketplace in red and gold light. Shadows stretched long between the stalls made of metal sheets and glowing signs. Merchants shouted about fresh food, shiny trinkets, and rare tools. Crowds of many species moved together, their voices mixing into a loud storm of sound. It was a place of life, noise, and color. In the middle of this chaos walked a single alien mother. Her skin was pale blue. Her clothes were old and patched. Her hands carried a small basket with only a few fruits inside. Beside her walked her daughter, small and curious. The girl held tightly to her only treasure, a mechanical bird. The toy was made of brass wings and tiny gears. Its paint had faded, but when it worked, the bird could flap its wings and sing a soft tune. It was more than just a toy. It was the child's only friend. The girl smiled as she held it close. She pressed the tiny button on its side. For a moment the wings fluttered. The gears clicked, and the little bird chirped. The child laughed, and the sound was pure. It cut through the noise of the market like a star in the dark. The mother looked at her daughter and felt both pride and sadness. She had no money for new toys, no money for comfort. Only this old bird gave her child joy. But the market was crowded. Strangers pushed past, their feet and tails and claws brushing against them. A tall alien carrying heavy metal boxes did not look down. He bumped the little girl. The bird slipped from her hands. It fell to the hard stone ground. The sound was small, just a crack and a clink. But for the child, it was like thunder. The toy lay broken. One wing bent, one gear loose. The little bird no longer moved. The girl gasped, her eyes wide. She knelt down and picked it up, her small fingers shaking. "Mama," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It won't sing anymore." The mother's chest tightened. She bent beside her daughter and tried to straighten the broken wing, but the gear fell out and rolled away between the stones. Her hands trembled. She knew she could not fix it. Tears filled her eyes. She pressed her lips tight, trying not to cry in front of everyone. But the sight of her daughter's tears broke her heart even more. Around them, the market did not stop. Merchants kept shouting. Buyers kept walking. Some looked at them, then looked away quickly. Others shook their heads. No one offered help. The mother heard whispers. "They are poor," someone said. "They don't belong here," said another. Her cheeks burned with shame. The little girl hugged the broken bird to her chest. Her small shoulders shook as she cried. The mother wrapped her arms around her. "It's all right," she whispered, though her voice cracked. "We will find a way." But deep inside, she knew she could not. She had no tools, no skills, no hope. The toy was broken, and with it a piece of her daughter's heart. She sat on the cold ground. Holding her child, her tears fell silently. The crowd moved around them as if they were invisible. The market's bright colors and loud sounds faded into the background. For the mother, there was only the small bird in her daughter's hands and the crushing weight of helplessness. Minutes passed like hours. The suns dipped lower. Shadows grew longer. Still, no one came near. It was as if the universe itself had turned away from them. The mother felt the sting of loneliness deeper than ever. Once she had a family, once she had a partner to share the struggle, but now she was alone. And her daughter's broken toy was a mirror of their broken life. The child's sobs grew quiet, replaced with soft sniffles. She looked up at her mother with wet eyes. "Mama, can you fix it?" she asked again, her voice trembling. The mother could not answer. Her lips moved, but no sound came. What answer could she give? How could she tell her child that some things stay broken forever? Her heart ached as she kissed the child's head. She wished for a miracle, even a small one, just someone, anyone, who could see them, who could care. But the market kept moving, the people kept walking, and the mother sat there, lost in the middle of the crowd, invisible, helpless, and alone. Yet, deep in the shadows of the market, unseen by her eyes, someone had noticed. A pair of human eyes had been watching. A man with a heavy toolbox at his side. his face unreadable, his steps calm. And though the mother did not yet know, her story, and her daughter's story, were about to change. The alien mother stayed on the cold stone ground, her daughter pressed against her chest. The broken bird rested in the little girl's hands, its bent wing and silent gears shining in the fading light. Around them, the marketplace still roared, yet it felt strangely empty. Every sound seemed far away, as if the mother and her daughter were trapped inside a bubble of sorrow. The crowd moved like a river around them. Feet, claws, and metal limbs stepped close, then turned aside. Merchants pulled their goods closer, avoiding their eyes. Shoppers whispered but never slowed. It was not just indifference, it was avoidance, as if the mother and child were not only invisible but untouchable. The mother looked up, her eyes red, her face wet with tears. She searched the crowd for a kind face, a single spark of compassion. But wherever her gaze landed, eyes turned away. A lizard-like alien clicked its tongue and muttered, "They are poor. They are weak." Another shook its head. "Not worth the trouble." The words stung sharper than knives. The little girl hugged the toy to her chest, her voice thin. "Mama, why don't they help?" The mother had no answer. Her throat tightened. Her heart sank lower. She wished she could tell her child that kindness still lived in the universe. But the silence of the crowd spoke louder than any promise. The market lights flickered on as the suns dipped further. Glowing lanterns lit up the stalls, colors of green, red, and blue. But to the mother, everything seemed dim. The laughter of others felt cruel. Every bargain, every shout of joy cut deep into her sorrow. The silence around her was not quiet. It was loud with rejection. It screamed, "You are alone." The daughter lifted the bird again, trying to press the button. Nothing happened. The gears inside were frozen. The wings hung crooked. She shook it gently, as if begging it to wake up. "Mama, please make it sing," she whispered. The mother reached out with shaking fingers. She turned the toy over, pretending to search for a way. But she knew, she had always known. Her hands could not fix it. Her chest tightened. She felt shame heavier than any burden. She had failed to give her daughter a better life. She had failed, even to protect this one small treasure. Her tears dropped onto the toy's metal frame. They slid across the bent wing like tiny stars falling from the sky. The girl looked at her mother's tears and grew quiet, her small face full of confusion and fear. A child should never see her mother cry. Yet here she was, around them. The silence grew deeper. No one spoke to them, no one reached out, but the whispers had not stopped. They drifted in the air like poison. "Look at them," someone muttered. A mother and child begging for pity. Why bring a child here, if she cannot care for her? The words twisted inside the mother's chest, each one another cut, another wound. She wanted to scream at them, to shout that she was trying, that she worked every day, that she gave all she had. But the crowd would not listen. They had already judged her, and judgment was heavier than silence. The daughter looked up at her, her voice trembling. "Mama, do we have to leave?" The mother's lips trembled. She nodded slightly. She thought of leaving the market, returning home. But what home? A small metal room with leaking pipes, a space that smelled of rust and sorrow. She wanted to protect her child from more sadness. But everywhere seemed empty of hope. The toy bird slipped from the girl's hands again. It hit the ground with a dull sound. The girl gasped and picked it up quickly, holding it close, as if afraid it might vanish forever. Her small fingers stroked, its wing as though comfort could wake it. But the bird stayed silent like the crowd around them. The mother looked up once more, the faces blurred, yet she felt the weight of their stares. Not open stares, but hidden ones, the kind that judged without speaking. Her chest ached. Her head felt heavy. She whispered to herself, "Is there no kindness left in this place?" The minutes passed slowly. The silence pressed harder. It wrapped around them like a cold cloak. The mother wanted to rise, to walk away, but her body felt heavy, her spirit weaker than her legs. The child leaned against her shoulder, still clutching the toy. Her soft sniffles were the only sound. In that moment, even the loud market felt distant. And yet, though she did not know it, she was not as invisible as she believed. From across the market, a figure had stopped walking. A pair of eyes had lingered on her and her daughter, eyes that did not look away. A man stood there quietly. Watching, he carried a box of tools at his side. His clothes were simple, but his gaze was sharp. Unlike the others, he did not move on. He stayed, he studied, he waited, and slowly, like a spark before fire, the silence was about to break. Not with whispers, not with cruelty, but with a voice she never expected to hear. The market was alive with shouts, the smell of cooked food, the clang of metal parts, but for the mother and her child, the world was only tears, whispers, and the broken bird. The silence around them was heavier than noise. It felt like every step of the crowd pushed them further into shadows, and then, through the shifting waves of people, a new figure appeared. A man, tall and broad, with skin pale under the alien suns. His hair was dark, his face marked by dust and grease. In one hand he carried a heavy toolbox made of iron and old steel. The box clinked with the sound of tools. The crowd gave him space, not from respect but from unease. Because he was human, among many worlds, humans were seen as strange, unpredictable, sometimes dangerous. They built machines where others used nature. They fixed what others threw away. And in this market they were outsiders. The mother had seen humans before, but never this close. She remembered stories. Humans were trouble. Humans cared only for themselves. Her heart tightened when she saw him step closer. Her arms wrapped tighter around her daughter. Her eyes lowered in quiet warning. But the man did not turn away. He stopped before them, kneeling slowly. His toolbox rested on the stone beside him with a dull sound. The mother felt her chest pound with fear and suspicion. The girl blinked at the stranger, her tears slowing, her small hands still clutched. The broken bird. The man's voice was steady, calm. "May I see it?" he asked. The mother froze. She did not understand at first. The man nodded at the bird. "Your toy," he said, his tone softer this time. "May I take a look?" The mother's hands trembled. Her mind screamed, "No. Why trust a stranger? Why trust a human?" But her daughter's eyes widened with sudden hope. She tugged at her mother's sleeve, whispering, "Mama, please, let him try." The crowd had begun to watch. Eyes followed the scene with curiosity. No one dared come close, but whispers grew. "What is the human doing? Why bother with them? He cannot fix anything." The voices mixed with doubt. Yet the man's eyes stayed steady, not on the crowd, not on the mother, but on the broken bird in the girl's hands. Slowly the mother lifted her gaze. Her eyes met his. There was no mockery there, no judgment, only quiet focus. Something in his stare unsettled her. It was not pity, not arrogance. It was purpose. The daughter stretched her hands forward. The bird shook in her grip. Her small voice cracked. "Please fix it." The man nodded once. He reached out with hands rough from work. He touched the bird gently, almost respectfully, as though it was not just a toy, but something sacred. The mother gasped when she saw his hands. They were scarred, stained with oil and burns. Yet his touch was delicate. The broken wing bent under. His thumb. The gears loose inside rattled faintly. He tilted the toy against the light, studying it with care. And for a moment, it seemed the whole market grew quiet, waiting, watching. He set the bird carefully on his knee, then opened his toolbox. Metal tools gleamed in the dim lantern light. Wrenches, wires, small cutters, strange devices no one else carried. The mother's chest grew tight. She whispered almost without sound, "Why are you helping us?" The man did not look up. He only said, "Because it is broken, and broken things should not be left alone." The mother's breath caught. She did not know if his words were wisdom or madness, but the daughter's eyes shone with hope. And for the first time since the toy had broken, the child smiled. The man's fingers moved with precision. He unscrewed the back, exposing the tiny gears. He leaned close, inspecting every piece. The mother's fear battled with curiosity. Could he really fix it? Was it possible? But as he worked, something went wrong. A small wire inside snapped with a sharp sound. The bird twitched once, then went still again. The mother gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Her daughter's face froze in shock. Whispers in the crowd grew louder. "See? Useless," someone said. "Humans only break things further." Another laughed. The mother felt anger rise. She reached for the toy. "Enough," she whispered harshly. But the man lifted his hand, gently, stopping her. His voice was calm. "Not yet." He reached into his pocket and pulled something small, a thin wire, shining in the lantern light. It looked like a piece torn from his own wristwatch. He smiled faintly. "Sometimes you give a part of yourself," he murmured, "and that is enough." The mother's breath shook. The crowd leaned closer, silent now. The girl's hands gripped her mother's sleeve, her wide eyes locked on the bird. Hope and fear fought inside her small chest, and under the glow of the alien lights, the human bent once more over the broken toy. The silence deepened. Every sound of the market faded. Only the click of his tools remained. Each movement was careful, deliberate, steady, as though the entire universe rested on this one repair. The broken bird rested in the human's hands, its brass wings bent, its tiny gears frozen, its song forever silent. The alien mother held her daughter close, her eyes full of doubt. She wanted to believe. But fear whispered in her chest. How could a stranger fix what was already lost? The human sat calmly on the ground, toolbox open beside him. Tools of steel, wire, and glass reflected the market's lanterns. The crowd pressed closer, curious, yet wary. They whispered among themselves. "Humans are reckless," one said. "They think they can fix everything," muttered another. Some leaned forward, others stepped back, as if expecting either a miracle or disaster. The human did not look at them. His eyes stayed on the bird. He picked up a small lens and brought it to his eye. He studied the gears inside as if reading a secret language. His scarred fingers turned the toy gently, each movement careful, steady, patient. The mother whispered, "Why do you care for us?" Her voice shook like a thread ready to break. The human answered without raising his eyes, "Because broken things deserve a chance." Simple words, yet they struck deep in her heart. He took a thin wire, the piece from his watch. With a small tool, he began weaving it through the cracked gear. The metal sang softly with each touch. Sparks glowed faintly when his tool connected. The little girl gasped, her tears drying, her wide eyes fixed on the glowing sparks. "Is it alive again?" "Mama?" she whispered. The mother could not answer. Her chest ached with hope and fear, but suddenly the tool slipped. A sharp spark snapped louder this time. The bird twitched violently, then fell still. The crowd erupted with laughter and doubt. "See? He makes it worse," someone jeered. "Humans break what they touch," another hissed. The mother's heart sank. Her arms tightened around her daughter. Perhaps she had been foolish to allow this. Perhaps kindness was just another trick. Yet, the human did not flinch. His face stayed calm, his eyes focused. He adjusted the wire, pressed the gear again, his voice low, almost to himself. Not broken, only sleeping. He worked faster now, hands steady like flowing water. Every spark that jumped from the tool lit the faces of the crowd. They no longer laughed. They leaned closer, silent, caught in the rhythm of his work. The toy bird began to change. A faint hum stirred inside. The gears shifted, clicking softly. The bent wing trembled as though testing itself. The girl's breath caught. Her lips parted. "Mama." "It moved," she whispered. The mother's eyes widened, her heart pounded against her ribs. Could it truly be? But then a loud crack echoed. One of the bird's inner springs snapped, shooting out with force. The girl screamed, clutching her mother. The mother gasped, her voice sharp with fear. "Stop! You'll destroy it!" The human froze, staring. At the broken spring on the ground, for a moment even he seemed defeated. The crowd began to murmur again. "It is finished," someone said. "He cannot fix what is gone." Another added, The silence that followed was heavier than stone. The girl buried her face in her mother's chest, whispering, "It's gone, Mama. It will never sing again." The mother stroked her hair, her tears returning. Her trust, fragile as glass, was breaking once more. But the human's eyes lit with something fierce. He picked up the fallen spring, his lips curving in a faint smile. "No," he said quietly. His voice cut through the silence like a blade. "It can still be mended." He reached deeper into his toolbox, pulled out a small coil of silver, finer than hair. His fingers twisted it. Shaping it with care, piece by piece, he rebuilt the spring. Not the same as before, but stronger, stranger, unique. The mother stared, breathless. The crowd leaned closer, silence pressing around them. Every sound of the market had faded. There was only the click of his tools, the shine of sparks, and the beating hearts of those who watched. The girl lifted her head slowly, her wet eyes shining with fragile hope. "Mama, look," she whispered. The human slid the new spring into place. The gears clicked once more, the hum returned, deeper this time. The bird's wings twitched again, not broken, not silent, but waiting. The human pressed the last piece into place, then leaned back, his eyes steady. "Now," he whispered. He turned the small key on the side of the bird. The gears whirred, the wings opened wide. The lantern light shimmered on the brass. The crowd gasped, the mother's lips parted. The little girl clutched her mother's hand. The bird shook, then lifted its head. Its small beak opened. And then, silence. It did not sing. The wings froze mid-air. The gears stopped turning. The girl's face fell, her tears returning. The mother's chest twisted in pain. The crowd sighed, disappointed. "Almost," someone muttered. "Almost is not enough." The human stared at the bird, his jaw tight. He held it gently in his scarred hands. His eyes narrowed, focused, unyielding, and with a voice firm as stone he said, "It will sing again." The crowd fell silent once more. The mother's breath caught, the daughter's eyes widened. And in that still moment, the strange repair was not yet over. The little bird rested silent again, its wings half open, its gears still. The crowd sighed in disappointment, their whispers sharp as knives. "Almost," one muttered. "Almost means nothing," said another. The alien mother felt her heart sink deeper. She had hoped. She had believed for a moment. But hope slipped away like water through her fingers. Her daughter's tears returned. The small hands hugged the broken bird close. "It won't sing, Mama," she whispered. Her voice trembled, filled with pain too heavy for a child. The mother's arms wrapped around her, holding her tight. She wanted to shield her daughter from more sadness, but she could not. She felt helpless, weaker than ever. The human sat still. His scarred hands rested on his knees, his eyes fixed on the toy. The crowd began to turn away, their curiosity fading, their laughter bitter. "Another failure," someone said. "What did we expect from a human?" Another scoffed, yet the man's eyes did not waver. He leaned forward, lifted the bird again. His voice was calm, low, but strong enough to cut through the noise. "It is not broken, only waiting." The mother looked at him in disbelief. The daughter blinked, her tears pausing. The crowd quieted once more, drawn back by his certainty. The man reached to his wrist. A simple watch was strapped there, old and worn, its metal frame scratched, its face cracked. It looked like nothing special, but he removed it gently. He opened the back with a small click. Tiny gears and wires shone within. The watch ticked faintly, its heart still beating. The mother's eyes widened. He was taking apart something of his own. The human pulled out a small coil of wire, finer than hair, strong as steel. The crowd gasped softly. "That is his own tool," someone whispered. "Why sacrifice it for them?" said another. But the man ignored them. He smiled faintly, not at the crowd, but at the child holding the bird. "Sometimes," he said, "you give a piece of yourself, and that is enough." His hands moved quickly. He wound the coil around. The bird's broken spring. He shaped it, bent it, tied it, every motion steady, every breath measured. Sparks leapt when his tool touched the wire. Light glowed faintly inside the bird's chest. The girl's eyes widened, shining with hope. The mother held her breath, afraid to blink. The human worked with focus. He pressed the last piece into place. The coil of his own watch now part of the bird's heart. His scarred hands trembled slightly, not with weakness but with effort. He had given something of himself, not just a tool, not just a piece of metal, but time itself. The bird twitched. Its wings fluttered once, twice. The gears began to turn. The hum returned, stronger, deeper. The crowd gasped, stepping closer. The mother's lips parted, her chest tight with awe. The girl clutched her mother's hand, whispering, "Mama, it's alive." The human turned the small key. The bird lifted its head slowly, its wings stretched wide, catching the lantern light. For a breathless moment, the market was silent. Then the bird opened its tiny beak and a soft, clear note filled the air. The song was simple, a few notes of mechanical chirping. But to the child, it was the sweetest sound in the galaxy. Her tears stopped, replaced with laughter. She clapped, her hands, her voice bright with joy. "It sings, Mama, it sings." The mother's eyes filled again, not with sorrow but with wonder. She pressed her lips to her daughter's hair. Her heart overflowed with gratitude. The crowd was silent, their whispers gone, replaced with awe. They had doubted, they had mocked, yet before their eyes, a human had done the impossible. Not with wealth, not with power, but with care, with sacrifice, with something no one else had offered. Heart, the bird flapped its wings. It circled once in the air above the girl's hands. Its brass feathers glowed in the lantern light. The child laughed so loudly that even the market stalls paused. Merchants stopped shouting. Strangers stopped walking. For a moment, the whole marketplace listened to the song of a small toy and the laughter of a child. The mother turned to the human, her voice trembling. "Why?" she whispered. Her eyes searched his face. She could not understand why he had given so much. He met her gaze calmly. His words were simple. Because no one should feel alone. The mother's tears fell again, but these were not the tears of sorrow. They were the tears of someone who had seen a light in the dark. She bowed her head, her voice breaking. "Thank you." The girl hugged the bird tight, her eyes never leaving the human. Her smile was wide, brighter than the suns above, but not everyone in the crowd smiled. Some watched with cold eyes. Jealousy stirred in their hearts. Suspicion grew in their whispers. Why would a human care? What does he want in return? The air grew tense. The miracle had happened, yes, but shadows moved beneath the surface, and as the bird sang its song once more, the story was far from finished, for kindness always brings questions, and sacrifice always carries a price. The bird still sang, its brass wings fluttering in the warm market air. The little girl held it close, her laughter pure, filling the silence. The alien mother watched, her tears falling freely now. But they were not tears of sorrow anymore. They were tears of relief, of gratitude, of something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The crowd stood frozen, their faces mixed with wonder, and disbelief. Some whispered softly, "No one else could have done that. Humans, they are different." Others frowned, suspicion burning in their eyes. Why would he do this for them? What does he want in return? The mother turned to the human, her voice shaking. "Why?" she asked. Her eyes searched his face, searching for the hidden reason. "Why help us when you gain nothing?" Her hands trembled as she pulled her daughter closer. Her fear of being tricked still lingered. Her people had taught her. No kindness comes without a price. The human looked at her, his gaze steady. He shook his head slowly. "I do not need payment," he said. His voice was calm, but there was a weight in his words. Sometimes fixing something small means fixing something bigger. He glanced at the bird in the child's hands, then at the mother. Sometimes it is not about the toy at all. The mother frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" she whispered. The man's eyes softened. You felt invisible, he said. No one stopped. No one cared. His words pierced through her heart like a blade. She lowered her head, unable to deny it. Yes, she whispered. We were alone. The human leaned closer, his tone quiet but firm. Then let this remind you, he said. The universe may look away, but not everyone will. His scarred hand pointed gently to the bird. That song is not just a toy song, it is proof. He paused, his eyes lifting to the crowd. That even in a place full of silence, someone can still choose to hear. The marketplace grew utterly still. No merchant shouted, no customer moved. Even the wind seemed to pause. The mother raised her eyes slowly. Her heart throbbed with a new feeling. Respect. Her tears blurred, her vision, but her voice found strength. You gave a part of yourself just for us? The man nodded once. He showed her the empty frame of his watch. Time itself had been broken from it. A piece of his own life offered to mend something precious. The mother gasped softly. Her daughter looked at him with awe. Why would you do that? The girl asked. The man smiled faintly. Because no child should lose their song, he said. Not while I have the power to give it back. The crowd murmured in shock, their whispers no longer cruel. He gave his own tool. He sacrificed for strangers. Maybe the stories about humans were wrong. Some faces softened, some eyes lowered with shame. They had looked away when the mother cried. They had ignored her pain, but the human had stepped forward, not with wealth, not with status, but with hands willing to give. The mother felt her knees weaken. She bowed her head low, her voice breaking. Thank you, she whispered. The words carried every ounce of her soul. The human shook his head again. Do not thank me, he said softly. Thank the lesson itself. His gaze turned to the crowd. Because all of you could have helped, yet you chose silence. His words echoed like thunder. Some in the crowd lowered their eyes, ashamed. Others bristled with pride, wounded. The little girl hugged the bird tight, her smile shining. Mama, it sings because of him, she said. Her voice was bright, innocent, unbroken. The mother's tears fell once more. Not because of sorrow, but because her daughter still had a song to hold. She kissed her child's forehead and looked again at the man. What are you really? She asked softly. The human's eyes met hers. His answer was simple. Only human. The words spread through the crowd like fire. Some repeated it in disbelief. Only human. Others whispered it with awe. The phrase became a weight, heavy, with meaning, for in that moment, humanity was no longer weakness or danger. It was something rare, something powerful, something they had all forgotten. Compassion. The mother's heart swelled. She had feared humans, mistrusted them, but now she saw him differently, not as an outsider, not as a threat, but as proof that kindness could still exist. Her hands trembled as she whispered to her daughter, Remember this day. The girl nodded, holding the bird close. I will. Mama, she said, I will always remember. The marketplace, once loud with noise and silence, now stood changed. The people did not laugh, did not whisper cruelly. They only watched, unsure of what they had witnessed. A broken toy reborn, a mother and child lifted from sorrow, and one human standing firm in the middle of it all. But even as the song of the bird filled the air, shadows stirred. Not all hearts were softened. Not all eyes were kind. Some still whispered in secret. Why would he give so much? What else does he want? Suspicion remained, and the story was not yet over, for kindness may heal, but kindness also tests the hearts of those who watch, and soon, the mother, her child, and the human would learn that every gift carries a weight, and every truth has a price. The bird sang its song soft and bright. Its brass wings caught the glow of the lanterns. It circled once in the air, then settled in the little girl's hands. She laughed, her voice pure and clear. The sound carried across the market like sunlight breaking through clouds. The alien mother held her daughter close. Her tears flowed, again, but they were warm tears. Her heart, once heavy with shame and sorrow, now felt light. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "You still have your song, little one." The girl hugged the bird tight, her eyes glowing with joy. The human stood before them, toolbox at his side, his hands scarred, his watch broken, yet his gaze calm. He said nothing more. He did not ask for thanks. He only watched the child smile. That smile was his reward. The crowd remained silent. They had watched every moment, doubted every step. Now they stood in awe, unsure of what they had seen. One whispered softly, "Humans, they give pieces of themselves." Another shook their head slowly. "Perhaps they are stronger than we thought." A third lowered their eyes in shame. We turned away. He stepped forward. The whispers grew, not of cruelty this time, but of reflection. The silence that had once been heavy now shifted. It carried weight, yes, but a different kind. It was the weight of respect. The mother bowed her head, her voice steady despite her tears. "You gave us more than a song," she said. "You gave us hope." The man shook his head gently. "Hope was already inside you," he answered. "All I did was remind you." The girl lifted the bird high, letting its wings stretch wide. The tiny gears clicked. The song carried once more. "Children from..." The crowd pressed closer, their eyes wide. Their parents held them back, unsure yet curious. For the first time, the marketplace felt different. It was no longer filled with only trade and noise. It was filled with a memory, a lesson too powerful to ignore. A merchant stepped forward, his face uneasy. He looked at the human and said, We saw them, but we chose silence." His voice cracked with guilt. The man gave no anger, no harsh reply. He only nodded once and said, "Silence is easy." He paused, his eyes sweeping across the crowd. "Kindness is harder." The words struck like lightning. The crowd shifted, their eyes downcast. Some clenched their fists, ashamed. Others wiped at their eyes quietly. The mother watched it all, her heart swelling. For the first time, she did not feel invisible. For the first time, her daughter was not alone. The girl tugged at the man's sleeve, her small voice soft. "Will you stay with us?" she asked. Her eyes were full of innocent hope. The mother's breath caught, afraid of the answer. The human looked at the child, then at the mother. He smiled faintly, a tired but kind smile. "No," he said gently. "I am only passing through." The girl's face fell, but he knelt down. He touched her shoulder with care. "Remember this," he whispered. "Even when I am gone, the song will remain." The bird chirped again, as if to prove his words true. The girl nodded, her smile returning slowly. The mother bowed her head deeper, her voice steady, filled with gratitude. "You gave us more than you know." The human rose, lifting his toolbox once more. He turned toward the crowd, who parted in silence, not out of fear this time, but out of respect. Every eye followed him as he walked. Every step echoed like a reminder, a lesson carved into their hearts. As he disappeared into the distance, the mother whispered to her child, "Do you understand, little one?" The girl hugged the bird, her eyes shining. "Yes, Mama," she said. "Even when the world is silent, someone will hear us." The mother kissed her forehead, her own tears falling freely. She knew the lesson was bigger than her, bigger than her daughter. It was for everyone who had watched, for every alien who had looked away, for every voice that had stayed quiet. They had seen what a human could do. Not with power, not with wealth, but with sacrifice, with care, with heart. The marketplace slowly returned to life. Merchants shouted again. Buyers moved. But it was not the same. The silence had changed them. The memory of the bird's song lingered, a reminder that kindness could still exist. That humanity in its strange, fragile way was powerful. The girl held the bird close as she and her mother walked away. Her laughter followed them, bright and sweet. The mother walked taller now, her shame replaced with quiet pride. Her daughter had her song, and she had seen a truth she would never forget. The truth was simple yet strong. The universe could be cold, the crowd could be cruel, but all it took was one human, one act of kindness, one heart willing to give, to remind everyone that, even in the darkest silence, a single song can change everything.